everybody and welcome back to the United Stand Is the Afternoon Show. I am back again and we are talking Ruben Amorim's summer raid of his old side Sporting. Is it the right path to go down? Will it actually happen? Magically, the January transfer window is over. Manchester United have signed one player, 20-year-old left back from Lecce, and suddenly we're talking about signing Quanda in the summer, Gyökeres in the summer. I mean, is Sporting going to let us take their manager, then also take Quanda, then also take Gyökeres? I mean, are we going to throw in Inacio while we're there? Are we going to throw in Youngland while we're there? I mean, Diamande? I mean, is this really possible? Is it really going to happen? And should it happen? There was a lot of criticism when Erik ten Hag went back and raided Ajax. Should the same thing happen again? But there is some legitimate news coming out about Quanda. David Ornstein reported it last week as well. He is a target for Manchester United in the summer. Does this affect the Gyökeres deal for Manchester United? Because I find it highly unlikely that Sporting are going to let us have both. Also, some news coming out around Marcus Rashford and his future in the summer. Apparently doesn't want to stay at Aston Villa in the summer. Already eyeing up that Barcelona move. And really interesting. I was doing some digging, I was doing some research between the gap between the 10 a.m. show and the 2 p.m. show, and I was thinking, why can Manchester United not score goals? I mean, what is the problem? People talk about the wing-backs, people talk about the striker, people talk about the number 10s. So I was looking over the stats for Ruben Amorim's side in the 23-24 season, and you will not be able to guess what position on the pitch has the most assists for Sporting Lisbon. Get your guesses in down below and we will talk about it. Also, there was a little bit of detail coming out from Christian Folk around the Tell deal to Tottenham. A lot of Manchester United fans absolutely gutted we missed out on that one yesterday. But to be honest with you, now the details have come out from Christian Folk, who is very close to Bayern Munich, it does look like Spurs have been robbed a little bit. Unless Tell does a madness and absolutely rips it up, they are paying a lot of money for a loan deal for a 19-year-old. But let's get in the comments, let's have a little chat and let's get into the latest news. So, Sporting raid. It is coming in from Rob Dawson that Quanda is one of Manchester United's summer targets. The 17-year-old has a release clause of €100 million, but there is a belief that Amorim's former club will be willing to negotiate to a fee closer to €60 million. David Ornstein talked about this. David Ornstein does not put out news about a player potentially being a target for Manchester United if there's not something extremely substantial in there. There was a lot of talk about Manchester United negotiating for around £40 million for Quanda. Even though he does have that super high release clause, Sporting would be willing to negotiate. Now, this is massively exciting to me. The idea of having Amad and Quanda down that right wing. Amad's 22, Quenda's 17, and he's ripping it up for Sporting. He was doing it in the Champions League. He's such an exciting prospect. I mean, he's defensively sound, he's powerful, he's pacey, he suits the style of the Premier League, he's good going forward, he's exactly what we need on that right wing back. And I think it does solidify Amad's spot as the right-sided 10 as well. I think them two linking up together would be extremely exciting for Manchester United. But I think Quanda is genuinely a top target for Manchester United, and I think Manchester United are going to try and go for him in the summer. And I think Amorim, a lot of Sporting fans, Sporting journalists as well, have said, do not be surprised if Amorim goes for Quanda in the summer. He brought him through, he loves the player, is exactly what Manchester United need. Wing-back, wing-backs, wing-backs. But I think a lot of Manchester United fans have their heart set on getting in Gyökeres in the summer for our striker. We were speaking about it on the morning show. We were speaking about on deadline day yesterday. Gyökeres, we feel like, is the striker for Manchester United. He's worked under Ruben Amorim before. He scored plenty of goals under Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim knows how he works. He knows his personality. Is it that age? He's got that experience. You know, he's got championship football under his belt for Coventry. He's gone and done it in Europe. He is a monster up front. And you can actually get him for a reasonable price because he's got a gentleman's agreement with Sporting Lisbon for around £60 million. For a player of that quality and his goal output and his goal contributions, that is an absolute steal in today's market. But this is where I struggle to add everything up because, of course, I want Gyökeres. Of course, I want Quanda. I mean, yes, please. The great players that work fantastically in Ruben Amorim's system. But a few things popped into my head when I was thinking about this as the news came out. Are Sporting Lisbon realistically going to let Manchester United take their manager midway through a season? Fair enough, we paid them a pretty penny to get Ruben Amorim out. We've paid the money. They've got money from it. But first of all, we're going to take the manager midway through a season. And then are they really going to let us take two of their biggest prospects in the summer. Gyökeres is going to leave. It's a gentleman's agreement. Where he goes is yet to be seen. Apparently Arsenal are interested, and the fact that they haven't gone and spent that striker money in January does worry me, because they're going to be serious competition for Gyökeres' signature in the summer. I was hoping they would get Ollie Watkins or Sesko in January, just so it would take them out of the competition for Gyökeres in the summer. But they're really going to then let us go for Gyökeres and take 17-year-old Quenda, who is a super talent, and his price is only going to rise, and he's got a pretty high release clause. I know the reports are they're willing to negotiate a little bit lower, but it just all seems a little bit too good to be true for me. And then there's also that side of things is, well, when Erik ten Hag was here, we went for Lisandro Martinez, we went for Anthony. You know, we were looking in the Dutch league a lot. Did that pay off when they came to Manchester United? However, I don't think that's a valid argument, because I think Erik ten Hag's talent ID was just woeful, to be honest with you, looking back. Like, this guy had Amad Diallo in his locker, in his toolkit, and didn't use him. Like, that to me is just absolutely incredible. I mean, Amari Forson played over Amad under Erik ten Hag. So, I mean, Kudus went to West Ham, and he was probably one of the best prospects that was at Ajax. So, yeah, when it comes to Erik ten Hag, I just don't think you can really judge that in terms of his talent ID. I think Manchester United trusted him too much on that side of things, whereas Ruben Amorim clearly knows exactly what players he wants, and I think he sees players for what they are, and I really do trust him in terms of his talent ID. And you are working with a recruitment team now that is more competent, has got people in charge that are not going to overpay, are going to trust the scouts, and going to hopefully do their due diligence. So the Erik ten Hag and Ruben Amorim comparisons for me don't wash, but I just don't see how Sporting Lisbon are going to do all of this for Manchester United. Why are they going to do all this for Manchester United? Okay, we're probably going to pay him a fair amount of money, but it just seems unrealistic to me. Get your comments in down below. We've got a poll down in the chat as well. Thank you for putting that in. The poll is, who would you rather go for? Quenda, right wing back, flying down the wing, 17 years old, a super exciting prospect. I mean, he's been compared to Saka. He's been compared to Saka from Arsenal in terms of, you know, he's got that defensive side to his game, but his attacking output is super strong as well. Remember, Saka has played left back before. I swear he's played left back for England. He's played left wing back. He's played multiple positions. Obviously, he was found out his best position was right wing, but he has been compared to him. You don't want to overhype him too early, because he is still only 17 years old. Add him to our youth centre FC team that we are building with all the youngsters in there. We do need to add some experience in as well. Or would you rather go for Gyökeres if you could only go for one? And then you add on top of this, Manchester United have been linked to Youngland, the midfielder. We could do with him. We've been linked to Inacio, you know, a potential backup for Lisandro Martinez, or a competitor for Lisandro Martinez, a similar sort of style in the way that they play in that left-sided centre-back role. And we've also been linked to Diamondi as well in the past, who is probably the most exciting centre-back prospect that Sporting Lisbon have. But we can't just go and copy a whole team. We've got to go out there and recruit our own talent, do our scouting, and go and get players in for Ruben Amorim that way, which is hopefully what we're doing along the lines with Patrick Dorgu. But if Gyökeres is off the table in the summer, which we don't know yet, it's just pure speculation from me, if we do prioritise Quenda, who I think is, you know, Ruben Amorim's, is his guy. He trusts him coming in from the youth, and apparently he absolutely loves the player. Wing-backs are so important to this system. If we do end up going for Quenda and Gyökeres goes to Arsenal or goes somewhere else, where do Manchester United pivot to in the striker market? There's not that many options out there where you're like, wow, and they're attainable. Gyökeres is, because of his gentleman's agreement, is 60 million. Like, for a striker of his quality, you can't pass up on that. Like, you're looking, I mean, in a dream world, I'd love to go and get Alexander Isak. Why would you leave Newcastle for Manchester United? And he'd be absolutely ridiculous money. Victor Osimhen's one that's been brought up before. How would that negotiate after our relationships with Napoli probably aren't that great right now, after they tried getting Alejandro Garnacho multiple times in the January transfer window? I don't know where you pivot striker-wise if you don't get Gyökeres, but Arsenal might just be able to take him anyway because they can offer him more. Summer's going to be really interesting, but also something that to bring into the conversation as well when you're looking at this news story coming out. Suddenly there's news stories about Manchester United prioritising a striker in the summer instead of, rushing into something in January. Then there's talk about us going for Quenda as well, which we know was already the case. But it's like positive spin the day after a transfer window ends. And I've come to notice it now. The brief about Manchester United being happy with the transfer window went, nobody of any competence would be happy with it. And then this brief about going for Quenda, going for a striker. To me, it's just, everyone, I know January's not been great, but look, this is our plan. Get excited for the summer. But by the summer, it might be too late. We might be out of Europe and our budgets might be cut. So it's all food for thought. I would love Quenda. I would love Gyökeres. I just don't see how both get done, and other targets as well. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you had to pick one, who would you rather go for? We've got Ravel Burns saying, Inacio from Sporting this summer with the Leacher injury. We're going to need a new left centre-back unless we go back for Branthwaite. Both have pros and cons. Inacio, there was a rumour, I think, at the start of January that, what team was it? There was a team that I can't remember. Was it Juventus? I don't remember who it was. There was a team in Europe, or it might have even been the Premier League, that were exploring a loan obligation to buy for Inacio. I'd have to look back over that. So Sporting might have been willing to sell him, to be honest with you. Is he right for Manchester United, though? That's a question I ask you guys. A lot of Sporting fans that I speak to rave about Diamandi. I know that's not the position that we need because we have, that central centre-back in De Ligt and Maguire. I mean, Maguire is probably going to leave next year, let's be honest. And then you are going to need cover there. But we don't need to just keep dipping into Sporting Lisbon. We need to explore other teams as well. We need to look on the market for other prospects, the South American market, the other European teams. There's more market out there than just the team that Ruben Amorim has previously managed. Inacio is exciting though, but I just don't see us going for him either. Do you remember when everyone was super hyped up about Todibo? And he's not exactly set the world alight at West Ham, has he? So you just got to be careful along them lines and just see how this plays out in the market with Manchester United's recruitment and their scouts. I'm sure Ruben Amorim is open to multiple options as well, not just his Sporting players. And I also wouldn't go back for Branthwaite. I know I was an advocate of Branthwaite initially, but I've just seen too many mistakes from him for Everton, to be honest with you, for me to justify that amount of money. He's an interesting prospect, and I did think there was times, especially last season, where he looked like top draw. But I've seen him make quite a few blunders, and Manchester United need to avoid individual mistakes. If I'm going to be honest with you, we keep making individual defensive mistakes that cost us. Ardo T-Def says, strikers are finishers. What would Gyökeres finish at the moment? The wing-backs are the key, and Dalot is not it. More strikers does not mean more goals. Well, funny that you bring up that point, because I was doing my research, and this is what I wanted to bring into the show, and I want to get it in now. So, when you speak about who should we prioritise, Gyökeres or Quenda, if we were going to get one from Sporting Lisbon, what positions we need to prioritise for Manchester United, I was looking into Ruben Amorim's tenure at Sporting Lisbon, and I thought, the recent full season that he had, the 23-24 season, I thought, who was getting the goals, who was getting assists, who was contributing in terms of attacking output for this team? Obviously, Gyökeres scored so many goals. He actually had a fair few assists as well, to be fair, for a striker. His numbers were absolutely off the scale, but I just thought I look purely at assists, because we talk about service, we talk about providing for our striker. And I thought, who has the most assists in the whole Sporting Lisbon squad for the 23-24 season under Ruben Amorim, which was a super successful season for that Sporting Lisbon squad? Well, I looked into it, and it was Nuno Santos. 50 games, 6 goals and 18 assists. What position does Nuno Santos play for Sporting Lisbon? What position did he play for the whole of that season? Nuno Santos, the most assists for the whole 23-24 season with 18 assists. It was left wing back. What has been Manchester United's biggest problem area under Ruben Amorim since he came through the door, left wing back. I mean, if you just look at the stats, Nuno Santos, 50 games, 6 goals, 18 assists. And then you look at what Manchester United current options are providing from that area under Ruben Amorim. And it gives you some sort of hope that Dorgu is going to massively bolster our attacking output. I don't want to put too much pressure on the guy, but it can't get any worse than what we've currently got. So, like I said, Nuno Santos, left wing back, 50 games, 6 goals, 18 assists in 23-24. United under Amorim so far this season. Dalot, 1 goal, 0 assists. Mazraoui, 0 goals, 1 assist. Hopefully, Dorgu is going to be an improvement on this, because wing-backs, like we've spoken about multiple times before, and like, you know, it's not just me who's made this revelation. People have been talking about it for a long time. You guys in the chat have been talking about it for ages. It's such an important part of Ruben Amorim's squad. It's such an important part of his system. And we've just not had wing-backs with the right profiles to suit what he's trying to do. Dorgu is a step in the right direction. Ricky keeps talking about how he thinks Dalot is going to be good on that right-hand side. I'm holding out hope for it. I think there will be an improvement to what he was on the left-hand side, but I still don't think Dalot has enough attacking output to really provide what Ruben Amorim needs. I think Dalot will eventually turn into a squad player that, because you need a squad, I think he'll turn into a squad player that can play left wing back if needed, right wing back if needed, you know, potentially could cover it right centre back. We've seen that happen sometimes in games. I don't think he'd start a game from right centre back, to be honest, Dalot. But he'll turn into that squad player, because you can't just have Kenda and Dorgu. Luke Shaw's never fit, so that's not an option. I see more of a left centre back anyway at this stage in his career. And Mazraoui, I think, is definitely a better centre-back in the system. I think he actually starts in a back three for Manchester United. Manchester United's best back three, Mazraoui. Much prefer him as a centre-back than I do as a wing-back. So I think Dalot covers both of them sides. I think that's where he goes to. I'm just thinking about the transformation that would happen from Mazraoui and Dalot as your starting wing-backs to Dorgu and Kenda as your starting wing-backs. One's 20 years old, one's 17 years old. They're both super exciting. They both have got a lot of pace, both very strong, good on the ball. It's exciting. But you do need that experience behind them, which is where Dalot keeps his place, I think, in the squad. And Dalot will definitely start games. You know, Dalot might still start games over Dorgu initially. You don't know. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping Dorgu's good enough now. That's what I'm hoping, because why would you go for him if he's not? Because what we need is what we need. What we need is someone who to play now. But I do see that that's how things will unravel under Ruben Amorim as we go into the summer if we do get Kenda in. So that's maybe something to take into consideration as you do your vote on the poll on who you would rather get from Sporting Lisbon. Oh, and Inacio's on the poll as well. I'm going to make my vote now. We've got another super chat in from Hurtful Reply saying we are signing proper players, not replacements. Ishan says if we finish 15th or so, if we finish 15th or so and don't win a trophy, I think Amorim gets sacked regardless. This team finished with 60 points last year with major injuries. Amorim is not going to get sacked. We have nowhere to go. We have no money. Amorim is not going to get sacked. As long as he's not relegated, he's not going to get sacked, and he shouldn't get sacked. What he's trying to achieve right now, Ruben Amorim, with this squad, it's like me asking you to cook a meal with chopsticks instead of, you know, a frying pan and, you know, the proper utensils. It's tough, especially coming in midway through a season. He's not going to get sacked. Ardo, I mean, I hope not anyway. Never say never. Ardo Teef says, oh, I've done that one. Your thoughts on the striker situation. Currently, in the chat, 60% of you are saying Gyökeres. I think a lot of people are valuing the importance of a finisher in front of goal. And I'm going to be honest, I know we've consistently had striker issues for years upon years. I thought Golbage's video surrounding Rasmus Højlund and the lack of service was really interesting, but I don't buy into the fact it's only service. we need a top draw striker, and we don't currently have one at Manchester United. And for the price of what strikers are in the current market, I think Gyökeres has to be the priority. I agree with you. I agree in the chat. As much as Kenda is a super exciting prospect and an opportunity in the market, and I think he'd be fantastic, strikers of Gyökeres' qualities do not come around for 60 million very often. And you're looking to the rest of the market for a striker, and you really are struggling to get anyone of any quality for that price, which is why Gyökeres, I think, does have to be the priority. Moving on to the next point of call on the video, and that is a bit of news surrounding Marcus Rashford. So it was coming out from Team Talk that Marcus Rashford has no plans to become an Aston Villa player on a permanent deal at the end of the season. He wants the Barcelona move and will try again in the summer to complete the transfer. To be honest with you, I don't know where they're guessing this report from. I do feel it might just be a little bit of reading between the lines on this. I don't think anybody from Rashford's camp's actively gone out and told people Villa's a no-go in the summer, we're going to Barcelona. I think this report is just reading between the lines, and if you do read between the lines, it does kind of look that way. Rashford was waiting until the last week of the transfer window to get that Barcelona move. Financially, it didn't materialise. He's always wanted to go to Barcelona. He wants to play abroad. He wants to play in La Liga. Barcelona, it's a sexy move. It's flashy. You know, it's a huge, huge club. I'm not saying Aston Villa isn't. Aston Villa is a big club, but Barcelona's that flashy move that he wanted. And Barcelona did have contact with him from November last year. They were interested. Ben Jacobs did confirm that on an interview we did with him here on the United Stand. So there were links to Barcelona. Barcelona just financially weren't capable of doing it in January, and Barcelona had to move for the sake of his career, getting game time and putting himself in the eyesight of Thomas Tuchel. I watched his interview on his unveiling for Aston Villa, and again, it's just reading between the lines, but he did make it clear it was a short-term stay. He's still got Manchester United in his bio on Instagram. I think Aston Villa is the platform for Marcus Rashford to try and go out there, play his best football under a very good coach in Unai Emery, under the nose of Manchester United, on the biggest stage in the Premier League, and kind of show, hello, I still have value and I'm here for a club if they want me in the summer. Maybe Barcelona have spoken to Marcus Rashford and said, look, when we can get our finances in order, maybe move a couple of players out, get some wages off our books in the summer, we'll come back in for you. But I still don't know how Barcelona pull off a £40 million move for Marcus Rashford in the summer if he does do well at Barcelona, because that is the price that Manchester United will want. And if he does well, I'm assuming Villa will want to go and buy him. It'll be really interesting to know, and I wonder if these details will come out, if the option to buy that Villa have, which is £40 million, Marcus Rashford can say, if they want to trigger it, hang on a second, I don't know if I fancy that, I'm going to choose to pivot and go somewhere else. Or whether if Aston Villa can just trigger that at the end of the loan and say, we're buying you, Marcus, and he goes to Aston Villa. But things can change. He might go to Villa, he might rip it up, he might love working under Unai Emery, he might do really well in the Champions League, you know, he might want to stay at Aston Villa and stay in England. We know how much he loves Manchester. I mean, he's commuting down to Aston Villa, apparently, from Manchester. Personally, for me, I mean, okay, yeah, I'm not driving around in a Rolls Royce or a Bentley, which is probably a much more comfortable drive, but I would not want to commute 2 hours in the car, which is what it would take, by the way. And if you add traffic onto that, even more, every single day to go to training, I wouldn't want to do that. Like, I would much rather, especially if you've got the money that Marcus Rashford has, just get a temporary home in Birmingham. So is that, oh, I really love Manchester, I want to stay in Manchester, or is that, I'm only there for 6 months, I can't really be bothered going getting a place, I'm just going to commute and then go to Barcelona hopefully in the summer. You can read it both ways. But at the moment, if you are looking at all of the evidence, it does kind of look like Marcus Rashford got to the last week of the transfer window. There was an opening up from Aston Villa. Barcelona weren't able to get the finances in order and thought, I need to go somewhere to play some football. And it is that short-term move for him to just get some football in the Premier League and try and raise his value. But let's see how that pans out. What I would say is I know there's so many mixed reviews on Marcus Rashford. I really hope he does well. And that's all I can say. I wish him all the best, and I really hope he takes this loan seriously. He does the right stuff off the pitch, and he does well. Because if he does well, he gives himself a chance. In the summer, he gives himself a chance of that Barcelona move. He gives him a chance of Aston Villa paying the money for him. A fresh start away from Manchester United. It's exactly what he needs. It's what Manchester United need. The relationship's broken with Ruben Amorim. He needs that fresh start. He needs that motivation away. Rooney said it. Gary Neville said it. Ex-players have said it as well. I think it's so obvious to everyone that he needs to leave Manchester United, and he's got a better chance of doing that and getting a good move if he plays well at Aston Villa. We've got a super chat in from David saying, got to admit, Beth, I just want to fast forward to the summer at that point where I'm dreading matches rather than looking forward to them, and I wish this wasn't the case. I've got so many United fans that message me saying the same, saying, have you got anyone who I can give my tickets to? It's sad. I don't look forward to going to Old Trafford, and I've always loved going to Old Trafford, but I feel like it's hard work at this moment in time. I go because I want to back Ruben Amorim. That's why I go. But it is a tough watch. It is a tough watch. We've got something coming in right now. Let me just read this through. Let me just read it before I read it out to the chat. So it's coming in from Sky, Mark Kleinman. Exclusive, the Manchester United FC co-owner, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, has told advisors to find a buyer for Ineos Hygienics, which he set up during the pandemic to produce hand sanitisers for NHS staff, and which he tried to turn into a mainstream consumer brand. So Manchester United FC co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe has told advisors to find a buyer for Ineos Hygienics, which is the hand sanitisers that you keep seeing. I think we've bought some for the studio before. What relevance this has to Manchester United, I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. But it's been sent into the chat, so let me know. Maybe he's trying to get more money from that company to invest it into Manchester United. I really hope that is the case as well. Got some more super chats in. We've got M20 saying, we will never succeed under this ownership. I try to be more positive and hope that we will eventually, but I have to say it's going to be a much slower process under this ownership than what it would have been if it was a full sale. Honestly, every day I think about this. Not a day goes by of my life where at one point in the day, I don't think to myself, if only it was a full sale. Like, we were this close. We were this close. And we've got what we've got now, and we've got to hope that it will get better. But it's not looked promising. If you look at Ineos's year since they've come into the football club, which has been around a year now, it's not great. It's really not great. We finished 8th last season. We're currently 13th in the league. You decided to keep Ten Hag after dilly-dallying for around 2 weeks after the FA Cup win. Then you sacked him. You waited ages for Dan Ashworth, paid a load of money to get him out, give him gardening leave, then you sacked him. And our winter transfer window has been an absolute shambles. Our summer one was decent. I'll give them that. The summer one was decent. The outgoings have been better under Ineos, but it's nothing to absolutely write home about. Ravel Byrne says, Ahmad, Kenda, Dorgu and Dallo should be the wing-backs. Ahmad gets taken out of games a lot as right 10. He likes drifting wide and taking spaces. He should be the right wing-back. I do think currently Ahmad is better at right wing-back than right 10, but I do think he would thrive at right 10 with a proper right wing-back next to him. I know it was only a small portion of games, but when Anthony used to come on as a right wing-back for the last 20 minutes of games and Ahmad was a right 10, Ahmad was so much more in the game because he could drift wide and he could drift inside because Anthony was naturally more attacking and he took defenders away from Ahmad and give him that space. So I think if Ahmad was actually working with a proper right wing-back that was getting forward and, distracting defenders and giving him opportunity, giving him space, he'd work a lot better. I just don't think Mazraoui provides that attacking presence that helps Ahmad, to be honest with you. I do agree he's better right now as a right wing back, but once you've got someone who is fully suited to that right wing back role in this system, I think Ahmad will do better in that 10 role. But I think he can play both, to be honest with you. Hurtful Reply says, I've done that one. Nigel Spiegel says, I need to sanitise my eyes because this football is putrid. Lewis Albron says, still can't believe our owners wanted to sell Garnacho. I don't want to go overall ground with the Alejandro Garnacho stuff, but we should not sell him now, and we shouldn't have sold him towards the end of January, but there is a conversation in the summer. He's a prospect, he's talent, but he's not an Ahmad. I hope he one day can grow into a top player, and I think he's got loads of potential. But I don't think anyone at this football club should ever be unsellable. There should be players that are looked at before Alejandro Garnacho, 100%. But I don't think you should ever write any player off as unsellable. Just the last thing I wanted to touch on, and this was the money that Tottenham paid for Tell. Manchester United wanted to bring Tell in towards the last few days of the transfer window as another attacking option for Ruben Amorim to play either as a striker or a 10. We were thinking, 19 years old, he agreed a loan deal with Manchester United. He wanted to go to Manchester United. He rejected Spurs. Straight loan is what we offered. Bayern Munich rejected it twice. A lot of United fans were really frustrated with this. They were frustrated we couldn't just cough up the £5 million loan fee that it was rumoured that Bayern Munich wanted for Tell. And we were getting labelled skint, we were getting labelled stingy, and a lot of people were fuming we didn't do this deal. But the finances have come out of what Spurs are actually paying for this Tell loan, 6-month loan, to Tottenham Hotspur, and it's coming out from Christian Folk, very close to Bayern Munich journalist. He said Tottenham are paying a loan fee of up to €10 million for Tell to Bayern. Tottenham will pay entire salary of Tell until the summer. The buy option in the summer will be €60 million for Tottenham. I think that's too much, to be honest with you. As much as I like Tell and I was excited about it, I do think Spurs are overpaying. Was it desperation? I don't know. But if we would have paid that, I think a lot of people would have been happy because we've got another attacking option in and we needed that. But I think them numbers are too high. I really do think them numbers are too high. And now, the dust has settled, you can look back at that and think, that's probably why we did avoid that deal. But it doesn't negate any blame from the ownership because we should have been way more organised. We should have not been trying to scramble this deal together on deadline day, the day before deadline day. We knew Rashford was leaving for 6 weeks. His relationship with Ruben Amorim was unfixable. He was going to go. Anthony went. There was even talks of us selling Alejandro Garnacho. That was a real possibility at one point in time. And we didn't scout out a forward player or a striker once. We tried to maybe test the waters with Chelsea for an Nkunku deal, which a lot of fans weren't 100% on board with anyway, and it was never going to be, a long-term option. And we tried to kind of look at Leon Bailey and Tell a few days before deadline day. First week of the transfer window, we should have been looking at financially acceptable deals we could have done in terms of the forward line, and we didn't, and we neglected the forward line after our failures in front of goal for the majority of the season. And there's no excuse for that. There is genuinely no excuse for that. If you look at our goal difference in the league, if you look at our forward stats in the league, if you look at how many goals Manchester United are scoring, there is no way we should have ended this transfer window without bringing a forward player in. And that's with losing forward players as well. So even though that Tell deal, I do think Spurs have overpaid, and I can kind of understand why United didn't want to pay that. There's no excuses. We were scrambling around on deadline day the last few days to try and sort something out when something should have been planned and something should have been organised beforehand. You're not telling me there's not any options in whole of world football that could have improved Manchester United's attack that were financially viable for Manchester United if the work and scouting had gone into it. I don't believe it. Look at how many teams get players in for cheap. The Brightons of the world, the Crystal Palaces of the world. Like, our scouting network has actually identified talents before. We've just not gone out there and pulled the trigger. So I don't think there's any excuse for that no matter what. Anyway, guys, hit a like on the video. Quick little afternoon show with the updates. Thank you, everybody, for getting involved. Let me just check there is any more news. I don't think there is. But Gyökeres and Kenda, both big targets for Manchester United in the summer. The spin happens the day after deadline day. I mean, you can't write it. We thought times were going to be changing. And you know, Glazer tactics do creep in once again. I mean, what do you expect? I just find it hard to believe that we're going to be able to get both. But let me know in your comments, what would your preference be? Are you glad we walked away from the Tell deal now that you've heard about the finances surrounding it? How do we get from here until the end of the season? And how does Ruben Amorim navigate the rest of this season with the lack of options that he has? Will Dorgu, now you know them stats about the left wing back for Sporting Lisbon last season, Nuno Santos, and his 18 assists. Will Dorgu be able to step up and help Manchester United out and improve our fortunes in front of goal for the remainder of the season? I think it's a big ask for a 20-year-old. I don't want to pile the pressure on him. But unfortunately, with the lack of activity in the transfer window, Manchester United have brought that pressure upon the player. We just got to support him as a fan base. Thank you for watching, everyone. Hit a like on the video, and I will see you on the next one.